Hi there everyone, Aaron Mortimer from Mariner Insurance again. Today we're at Westhaven Marina at Nav Station. Will Rutherford is here with us and he's going to help us talk about marine electronics, how to find them, how to buy them and how to install them. Well, thanks for coming along. Well, thanks for inviting me along today, Will. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and about Nav Station.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much for having me. Nav Station, we started in 1984. I've been here since, through the 90s, but mainly since 2008, and seen the change in electronics from then. We're a independent retailer. We're multi-branded. Main brands Garmin, Furuno, Ray Marine, Icom, Fusion, and Vespa. Sell a range to retail, and we also supply some boat builders. And it's really main thing is helping people find what they need, and then helping them get it on board their boat and using it.
Rightio. So look, on the claims front, we know that marine electronics are a popular thing because they're often the gear that gets licked from a boat. So if that's the case, often if we're cash settling somebody, we'll direct them to somebody like Will, who can give them independent and partial advice on maybe what they should replace their gear with. Because the gear, it changes, doesn't it, Will? There's always some new technology, and if you're running 10, 15-year-old gear on your boat, you're going to probably find yourself presented with a vast array of options that you didn't have. So can you talk to us some of those new trends that you've seen coming through?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the biggest one that we've seen is, if we're talking gear that's 10 or 15 years old now, is the size. Right. Traditionally, sort of the early 2000s, even 2010s, 7-inch was a big screen.
Yeah.
Now that's a 7-inch, which is considered a small screen.
Yep.
We're all the ways into 9s, 12s, 16s even, and we go right up into 17s to 24s.
Wow.
So the range has become a lot bigger.
Yep.
And now screens have moved into what we call a multi-function format. So in the past, some people may have just bought a sounder, or they might have bought a chart plotter, or just a radar by itself.
Yep.
Might have had 3 separate screens on there that could all only do one function on their dash.
Yep.
Now it's maybe 1 or 2 screens that can do all those functions on itself.
Right.
So the need for multiple screens in some ways has changed, and you don't need to go down that. In other trends, we're actually integrating more stuff into those screens now. So
right.
We've got things like cameras,
Yep.
a lot of power management modes, digital switching, engine data and stuff like that. So in a lot of cases, we will have actually more screens because we want to view more
right.
stuff through it. So huge trends in terms of what we're bringing into what we call a screen now, rather than a particular chart plotter, a sounder, or a radar that we had in the past. So they're the big ones in that. Other trends that we've seen is we've moved away from what we call traditional fish finding.
Yep.
Which is one particular high frequency like 200 and one low frequency like 50 or 38, and we've moved into what we call chirp fish finding.
Right.
And that's multiple frequencies, all giving you different returns, and then the screen picking the best image out. So you get a lot more separation of your fish.
Right.
on the from the bottom and from other fish. So increase in that technology means that you see more fish and you get a better idea of what the bottom is.
Cool.
Another trend in terms of radars, we've moved away from the traditional analog radars that we all had in that. Which
the pulse ones.
The pulse ones with
yep.
with a big, thick, fat cable.
Yep.
Moved into digital, and now we're into what we call the broadband and the Doppler radars, and they tend to give you a lot more information, less tuning for the customer, which is great.
Yeah.
And you get some functions where you can have your targets changing colours depending on whether they're safe or whether they're dangerous and heading towards you, or you're heading towards it.
Oh, that's cool. Wow. That's really good. Well, thanks for that. So look, I guess maybe the next question is, if you win the lottery and you decide, right, I'm going to upgrade all the electronics on my boat, when you're talking to a vendor on electronics, or you're coming in, what are the questions you should be asking? What are the things you should be thinking about when you're upgrading or even speccing electronics for your boat?
Sure. I mean, the first thing really that we come down to is screen size and space, because that dictates where we're going to go from there and what we're going to add to it.
Yeah.
So it's a really good idea to know what we're working with in terms of size. So whether we're going to go 1 big screen, 2 small screens, or we can fit 1 screen, however, in that regard.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing there. 2, like what type of boating do you do?
Right.
If you're a person that fishes in the Hauraki Gulf in 70 meters, 80 meters max,
yeah,
we don't need to go and overpower with a huge expensive transducer for fish finding.
Yep.
We can get really great results out of a much cheaper option for you and stuff like that. So have a good idea of how your boating is and what your fishing is, especially in that regards. That's a big plus. And then what you want to see on the screen. A lot of people just want to put everything on there, but they're not actually going to use it. You need to think about what you're doing, how you want to integrate it, how you want to use it. One of the big things we see now in flybridge boats, like stereos, for example, we can control them through these screens here, so we don't need to have another stereo upstairs. We can just have a set of speakers where you can change the volume off the screen.
Cool.
Saves the customer some money, and a little bit more flexibility in terms of the
it's one less thing to install as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And there's lots of ways on that. Also, what gear's on board the boat now, it's really handy to know what transducers are on board the boat. So if you can look at the tag on the transducer, so we know what we're working with there, we may be able to use that when we're putting new gear on. Also, what we've done in the past in terms of charting and stuff like that, whether we can bring those charts onto the new gear, or we're going to go buy some totally new charts in that regards there. So there's lots of things to think about. Mainly it's screen size and how you're using the gear, I would say, would be the two things to have a firm idea of what you're doing before you turn up to a shop and ask questions.
So would it be easier for people to sort of go overboard and think they want everything? Or they want to be able to view everything and then they don't really... Is it a case of being overwhelmed by all the options on the screen sometimes?
I think the biggest thing is if you have a clear idea of what you want to get out of it, you're not going to buy possibly options that you don't need.
Yeah, fair enough,
So like in a lot of cases in here, people want, I want this and that. And then you sort of talk to them through the thing, and then you find out that they actually don't need those things or that's an extra that they may do in the future. And a lot of the gear these days is upgradable. So you can
add it later. If
absolutely. So you might start with just a transducer into the back of a screen for your fish finding, but you might suddenly want to go a bit deeper or something like that, and you might add a sounder module 2 years down the track. And that's eminently achievable with the modular systems these days. Once you buy something and it leaves the shop, it's not necessarily that for the rest of its life. You can add things to it.
So it's all through software updates and things, which you never used to be able to do. It's getting easier and easier and easier.
A lot of software all through your phone or a card. So the software updates, so it can change the options and stuff like that. I mean, for example, in these screens, when these came out in here, they didn't have the Mercury page in them, but that software page has been, as Mercury released it, they've allowed us to have that. And the same with, there's a Yamaha page in there as well. So those sort of functions weren't in the unit, but software updates has made them available for future use. So you're not stuck with what you bought as much as you were in the past.
That's great. Well, okay, so let's say you won the lottery, you come and you spend $150,000 with you. You got to get the stuff on the boat next. So what are the things you should be thinking about for the next step once you've decided which way you're going to go with your pack?
I mean, if you don't have someone that looks after your boat, if you're maybe a smaller boat or something, always ask the advice of the guy selling the gear if they've got someone that they recommend that they know does a good job. There are qualifications to ask the installers, and don't be afraid to make sure that they do have their tickets for what they're doing.
Because the marinas are really big on the EWAFs and stuff now, so everything's sort of got to fit.
Absolutely, especially on the marinas. Your guy has to have his insurance policy as well. Work on the boats and things like that. So make sure they've got that. You don't want to open yourself up there. But certainly that. Also, when you're looking at installing new gear, it's a great time to look at the power on board the boat. Make sure your batteries are in good nick. And the supply and charging is good in that regards too, because that's one thing that we see quite often when new gear goes on. It sort of tends to pick up the faults in the system that's already there from the power point of view. So good idea to have a look at your batteries at the same time. Talk to the guys, that they're all generally pretty good in that regard. And then maybe have a think about something for the bigger boats that are on marinas in terms of monitoring for your power. So there's a lot of options out there now where you can install a box on the boat that measures whether what your battery state is. Gives you a remote turn on and turn off of switches, and also whether your 240 off the marina is still connected or not. So quite often they click off for various reasons. If you get an alert on your phone or an email to tell you that, you can get someone to click it back on before you lose your fridge or your bait or your Christmas hams and whatever in that regards.
We actually have, just a reminder, we actually had a claim issue. It was here on Westover. Actually, it wasn't too far away from you here, where a family went away fishing. They didn't catch anything. They had a lot of bait in the freezer, they left the shore power plugged in, went off. For whatever reason, somebody else down the marina tripped the shore power, the whole pier went down. Nobody twigged, they didn't know, it didn't get reset, and 4 days later, the bait had just leached, it had just gone horrible, it leached out, it dripped out through the seal. The seals in the freezer, once they flashed, dripped out. It was absolute carnage. So, but that remote monitoring situation, if you knew what you had, if it's top of mind that crikey, if the power goes off, I've got to do plan B.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's a really affordable, easy option. For especially if you're on the marinas. It's certainly something to look at, and it's not hard for the guy if he's doing an install to put that on, and it gives you that peace of mind and stuff like that. They also geo-lock, so if you can have an alarm on them. If your boat moves out of the marina, you're going to get an alarm. If someone opens the contacts on the doors, you can have those as well. So bilge pumps go off. Really important in that monitoring, which is a new trend that we've seen.
On the geolock, that's a funny one. Well, not a funny one, because I do know an instance, it wasn't us, where a son, unbeknownst to his father, borrowed the boat from the marina, took off with his mates, came back at 3 o'clock in the morning, and did quite a lot of damage coming back. And, the father was none the wiser that, the son or whoever it may have been took off with the boats.
Yeah, sure.
It's these things you think you don't really need that, but sometimes for the risk and the return, as you say, it's not a lot of money these days, and it's a peace of mind. And particularly a lot of people spend a lot of time overseas. If they can't get down to the boat, it's good to know if something's happening.
Absolutely.
They can get someone to go down the boat and pull it up. Yeah, cool.
No, definitely.
Well, I guess being as a guru of things marine electronics, you must have had quite a few or some wacky conversations or wacky requests to do stuff. Have you got any little stories there that we might have a giggle over?
Sure. We've had plenty of guys wanting the boats to drive themselves on autopilots and miss everything. Get that quite often. We had one the other day from the Cook Islands. A guy wanted to put an autopilot on his boat, and when I asked how he wanted to control it through either a separate screen or his chart plotter, he actually said that he wanted to control it from his bedroom.
His bedroom at his house.
Bedroom at his house, I should say, not on the boat. And he was going to dial in and do it remotely through Starlink and NEMA 2000 and all this. Personally, I said, A, it wouldn't work. He physically needs to hit the buttons, but B, from a good seamanship point of view, he needed to be on the boat. In the end, I chose not to sell him a pilot for what he wanted. But that's probably certainly the craziest we've had in recent
it's an interesting. Why would you possibly? I mean, it's who knows? I mean, I don't know. You can but speculate on it.
It was a conversation that didn't need to be had, so it ended pretty quickly. But it's certainly the craziest one in the last few months anyway. Great.
Well, that's been really good, Will. Thanks very much. If anyone wants to get in touch with Will, navstation.co.nz is the website. Nav Station is located at Westhaven under Sales Restaurant, if you know Sales, or it's at 103 Westhaven Drive. We direct people to Will where we can, and personally I've bought some gear off Will and found it really good to deal with. So if you're after some marine electronics, give them a crack, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Will.
Thanks very much.